Yay. So excited you're here. And it looked like your women's retreat was so amazing. So fun. So let's go ahead and get started like we usually do. And light some sage. Hmm. Okay. So if you've got your, oh, maybe not. I know, I see. There's juice in here. Work, work. Maybe not. Do you have something, Brittany?
I think that I do just on the kitchen counter. One sec.
I got fire. A little bit of fire. And it may give us a little bit of smoke, which is all we need. Even if not, it's we could imagine. Okay, so just anchoring in, nothing too crazy and serious, just calling in that circle of light and safety. Anytime I'm in a gathering with people, I like to just for even just psychic protection, stuff that's unwanted. This stays out and I stay nice and clean and clear. Um, and opening up to be out of our ego minds and into our higher self, our spirit self. Asking for understanding, knowing, vision, hearing, speaking, and feeling. All the things, all of our intuitive senses beyond our five physical senses, so that we can connect to existential kink on a deeper level, that we can have fun with this, and that our guides will help us understand, know what it is that we're doing here, and anything else you guys want to add?
Calling in our vulnerability.
Mm, yeah. Oh, yeah. All parts of us are welcome here today. All parts of us. It is safe to be seen. It is safe to be fully, truly seen. I love when I allow myself to feel safe being seen. All right. So it is.
So it is.
And so it is. So Moda B. Um, okay, well, the very first thing can we just like riff for a minute on what we've read and then we can go through the questions?
Yeah. And those questions we don't even have to go through. Those are just some prompts when people do read. They're honestly, I didn't even come up with them. I got them from Grok.
Genius. Yeah. So the one of my favorite things that she like beats, like she repeats over and over and over again, is this Carl Jung quote that is just one of my favorites. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life and you will call it fate. And I mean, she just repeats this, I think, in every chapter. I think even multiple times in lesson one, she repeats it. And I just love this so much. And it also kind of pisses me off. Just being real. Just being real. Because it's like, I just, sometimes ignorance is bliss. Sometimes it's so nice to just be like, well, I have no control. It is what it is. Okay. But when you start doing this work, what is it? The red pill, you take the red pill. Is that the one you take or is the blue one? I always forget, but
It's it's one of them. It's the red or the blue pill. I don't know.
I think the blue pill is like the one that keeps you numb. because it reminded me of Prozac, because the Prozac that doctors gave me was blue, a little blue pill. I was like, my little happy pill. Um, it wasn't, it didn't make me happy though. It just made me numb. But I wasn't depressed anymore, but I also didn't feel joy. Um, so it's just like, man, sometimes when you start to do this work and you learn these things, it's like a whole new level of, I mean, it's almost like a whole new level of fate sometimes. And I don't know if that makes sense. So I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this, anybody's thoughts on this. But it's like when you start to realize parts work, that I've got all of these parts within me, my inner child, my wounded healer, my imposter, like, and all of the good parts too. But it's like, this is a crazy madhouse in here. And do I even really have any control over all of these parts of me that are just subconscious patterns that have been repeating themselves since, I mean, who knows, even ancestral or past life? Yeah, I'm still unraveling that one. But it's kind of like a new, like, I'm still, these are now ruling my life in a way. I mean, not because I'm aware of them. I don't know. I'm going to shut up and hope that I've expressed enough of my feeling to hear what you guys think about it.
So, what was, did you ask a question like what you're talking about different parts all coming together?
Well, it's so there's just this concept that when you do like when you do start this work, that it's like a whole new level or layer of like fate almost. Like still feeling somewhat helpless to these parts a little bit. Like now they're running the show and I'm aware of it, but still like, how do I get to like point zero point where there's like, it's just me and the void. And now from here, I get to move forward and create instead of all this baggage. I don't know
Yeah.
if the thing makes sense, but it like kind of, sorta.
And it almost feels like this, okay, now I'm aware. Now what? Now what the fuck do I do?
Mm.
Now what? Like, okay, I see these parts within me. I realize that they're all here. How do we organize this? And how do I run the show?
Brains.
Mhm.
What do you think, Cherie?
Yeah, I agree with Brittany. It's like I think the first as I've been reflecting on where I've come from and like where I plan on going, but like as I look backwards, as you assist clients, I really only feel like I'm a few steps ahead, right? And I'm just turning my hand back and like trying to help them over things that I've already overcome, right? And so it's kind of that piece of being able to see where I've been and being like, gosh, like how how did that come about, right? Like, where did that thought process of becoming aware of all of those pieces? And it's just a step at a time, right? It's like, I didn't know about inner child work until I did. And then I worked on it. And then I didn't know about shadow work until I did. And then I worked on it. Like, so it's just even learning about each piece, and each piece showed up as I was ready and open to figuring it out, right? And then it's like people like you, Jenny, that just show up right when I am learning about other things where I'm like, and then you add another layer of, okay, Sheree, this is maybe the next step you're looking at, like the quantum light codes. Like I'm like, I cannot get them off my brain. Like they are there. And I'm like, okay, but I'm not quite there yet. So it's like, it's interesting how that shows up. Like each piece shows up when you're ready and open and willing to do the work. But it's definitely, I'm in a season where I'm like, huh, I'm tired. I've done a lot. I need to rest for a minute before I jump into the next thing. So those are my thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. When the student is ready, the teacher appears. And so like there's one of our mentors, Eric Godsey, has talked a lot about like, the more he connects with a spirit, his higher self, the more he realizes he doesn't have free will. He really doesn't. He just is following spirit. And I was like, ooh, I kind of bristled at that the first couple of times I heard it. I was like, ooh, yeah, I'm a big fan of free will. We all have free will. I believe we have free will. But as I was reading in A Course in Miracles this last week, what really stood out to me was this concept that we actually really want God's will because it is the best outcome option for us. Like it really is the highest good that we could ever get. And we resist it because we are fighting. We're like, the phrase that comes to me is like, um, fighting to the death, defending our limitations. How dare you tell me I can have this amazing life? How dare you tell me that I could have all of these things and be all of these ways because I have suffered and I'm supposed to suffer and then I'll get the reward sometime later, maybe when I'm dead. Like so we defend these limitations to the death and then wonder why I don't know, feel abandoned by God or betrayed by God. And this is speaking from personal experience yesterday. Like speaking of like a few steps ahead, like this shit happened to me yesterday. I'm a day ahead, and maybe not even ahead. You guys maybe passed me on this one, right? Because we all have our different experiences and gifts. Um, but it was really interesting to read the way A Course in Miracles talked about it as like, why wouldn't you want God's will? Why wouldn't you surrender your own little human ego mind thinking to this beautiful creator who knows inherently what is best for you? What, like, why we think we know is arrogant, you know?
Yeah. That's, I also struggled with the concept of like, um, I don't know. I think it's like when you're in the dominant, prominent religion here in Utah, like they tell you that nothing is predestined
Mm.
and that we have free will, right? And that we have agency. That's the word.
Mm.
And then I read the book that changed my life, like started my real big awakening, even though I really hate that word for some reason. um, was The Alchemist. And I actually got a tattoo and it says Maktub and it means it is written. And it's like, so I'm kind of constantly playing with the idea of like, okay, I call it fate, but also I get to choose. And what the realization I've come to is like that there is a will, there is a greater like collective outcome, but we are characters. This is how I have to think about my life. We are characters in a book. And the characters could choose multiple different steps to take, paths to take, but everything they do is always within character. So they could do this or they could do that, but it's in their character. So I think that helps me navigate the whole fate thing. And um, I like the quote that, what was it again? Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life and you will call it fate. Because how often are we saying like everything happens for a reason? And it's like if we don't bring that the unconscious stuff of like instead of just glazing over it and like, oh, it happens for a reason. I don't know. It's like this book dives into what are the reasons? What are your character's reasons? And why is your character making these choices? What does your character get out of this? What, and I guess character can be interchangeable with ego, like in this instance. So that's how I'm interpreting this book, and I fucking love it. It lights my brain on fire.
Really, really love the analogy of a book with characters and like I just immediately I thought of those choose your own adventure, and it's like, you can go to this ending or this ending or this ending or whatever, and then they all branch off, but they still stay true to their character. Interesting. So yeah, whatever their desires, there's a word that I'm trying to think of. It made me think of when I was in the play Mamma Mia, and my director, I went and watched a play with her, um, and she was just like that thing that there's a word. Come on, Jenny.
Can I say a word that's popping into my head? Essence.
It's not that one. It's this the thing that propels the character into action. They're
Their call to action. They're, well, no, that's not even it. Okay, I get.
Yeah, it feels like a P, but their preferences, their end goal, their like
Their
whatever
prerogative.
prerogative, yeah, coming to me, but it's something like that. It's like, oh, we, yes, are all playing these different not these different games. We're living our own lives. Today I did a live on, Sheree, you might enjoy this. I said, tired of fighting everything. Like, and I share a little bit about my recent meltdowns that I've been having. Um, but in there, I talk about how I believe that God wanted to know what it was like to experience a Jenny experience with Jenny's preferences, Jenny's emotions, Jenny's ideals, Jenny's beliefs, Jenny's everything. God wanted to know what it was like to experience a Jenny existence. That's why God created Jenny. And that's why God is with me, because God wants to experience it with me. God wants to know what it's like to be a Brittany, to be a Shireen. And so it's like that whole like concept of, yeah, we're these characters in this beautiful novel called Human Existence. But we are true to our character, but our character we can have a change of heart, and we can, like, character can change because it's almost there, it's at the tip of my tongue. Our motivations, our motives change because we have a moment, a life changing, altering moment that shakes our belief system, challenges our current thoughts or what we think we know, or like something that comes in, this life altering moment shifts and changes, and it's like all of a sudden those motives that used to be, think back 10 years ago, what were the things you wanted in life, and do you still want those things now? Or have your motives changed? Because our character, the essence of who we are, I think the ego gets in the way of that essence. And when we have these life altering moments, it's the ego that gets shattered, and we have glimpses of that essence, that God self, um, shine through. And it's like, oh, hold on, all the shit that I thought I wanted, I actually don't. And now I want this. My motive has changed. Now my character is motivated to move in a different direction and make different choices.
Yeah, totally.
Not a P word. It was motive.
Hmm.
The motive, the driving force behind. Because, like, I remember when I thought having a perfect body would give me a perfect life. And I was doing everything I could to have a six pack and a thigh gap, thinking that would give me everything I wanted. Bless that cute little me's heart. you know? Okay, let's get to these questions. Thank you for putting this together, Brittany. This is awesome.
Yeah, you bet.
Okay. What is existential kink? Understanding the concept. Elliot introduces EK as both an attitude and a meditative practice for embodying unconscious desires to dissolve negative patterns. What was your initial reaction to this idea? Did it feel empowering, provocative, uncomfortable, and why?
Oh, I wish I could see it on my phone. I even have I am the one that put it together. Why don't I know this question? Will you read it again?
Yeah, I will. I'm going to move you guys so I can see it clearly. So Carolyn introduces EK as both an attitude and a meditative practice for embracing unconscious desires to dissolve negative patterns. What was your initial reaction to this idea?
Um, well, the way that she put it in the very at the very beginning of the book, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't like it. I
Yeah.
was like, fuck you. I didn't attract these things. I don't unconsciously want to suffer. Like, fuck that. Why who wants to do that? Why would I ask for this circumstance? And a lot of my things are old stories about medical stuff. And so at first, I really didn't like what she was saying. I'm going to be honest, but I was like, no, there's some truth in this book, and I know that. And so I I had to kind of push through in the beginning. I didn't like the concept. Um, but I know that also the author, it talked about like her addictions. And so that helped me understand it and relate a little, even though I don't, I'm not an addict to like heavy drugs or anything like that. Like it made her more real and was like, okay, like I can be open to this idea. If you are like, oh, you consciously like realize and take responsibility for like the unconscious parts of you about being an addict. So I think that helped me kind of relate to her a little. But yeah, I didn't like it at first.
That's really interesting because this book, just the title, is incredibly provocative. And even like in your post, I don't know if you saw this, Sheree, but on Facebook, when Brittany posted that we were starting this book club, someone commented, "I know a good Dom if you would like her number." And it was like, that's not what this book is about. But that's kind of cool. And isn't provocative one of your gene keys?
Yeah, it is. That's my I don't know which one it is, but like how I show up and like draw people in is being provocative and shaking things up with like making people feel like, ooh, there's a sexiness to this. Like this is something about this is attractive. So,
Okay.
yep.
Very cool. What did you think about this book when you heard about it, Sheree?
I'm not gonna lie, I was a little disappointed it didn't go in that direction. But that's my shadow side, right? I'm like, ooh, this is kind of interesting. No, but like I said, I've done a ton of shadow work, and so when I really looked into the book and like listened to the sample of the Audible and just different things like that, I'm like, okay, this is the direction likely that it needs to go, right? Like that we're looking at. And I get why it was chosen for the book. And so, but I even, as I did read the prologue, right? As I was like, I'll just hurry and cram in what I can. Um, but I mean, I do believe that, I sat down with a team of people or like a council and came up with my life plan of like, this is what I get to experience in this life. I still don't 100% know what I believe about past life and like but I do believe that I have lived more than once. And so I go back and forth like, huh. But like this life looks different than maybe one of my past lives and the things that I need to learn. And I do know a lot about energy. And so I do believe too that energetically we attract certain things into our life to help us know and understand, to then help us experience it at a level that maybe we wouldn't have so that we can continue progressing. But
So
yeah, so I love that idea.
that reminded me of this time that I was in Relief Society. And I can't remember exactly what we were talking about, but I remember thinking and saying out loud, like to the reliefs, whoever was teaching, like, I think that in the pre-existence that I raised my hand and said, okay, I'll take that one. Okay, nobody wants that one. I'll go. Nobody's gonna take that either. Okay, fine. I'll take that one. And I think that I don't know how that really relates to like making the unconscious conscious, but like that was the beginning of knowing that like I did somehow choose this. And I'm now thinking like I wonder what people in Relief Society were thinking. Like if I was like in the pre-existence I chose and it's predestined for me. I chose all my struggles. They weren't given to me by God. Maybe that was pretty provocative to say. What about you, Jenny? What's your answer to this question?
Yeah, when I um a couple years ago, one of my business partners suggested it to me. And I was actually really excited about it because I love existentialism. I can get off for days on existential concepts and just like it's like food for the gods for me. Like it's just so juicy. Um there was a really interesting concept in here that I kind of, the very first time I remember skimmed over it and was like, I don't know about that. But now this time, because it was like 2 years ago, I think that I read this the first time, or 2 or 3 years ago. This time I read it and it was like, God's a kinky motherfucker. And I was like, oh, no, no. Like, God is perfect. God is all things. But as I've been doing a lot of unraveling the religious dogma that I have been taught, I've had some really interesting insights, correlations, epiphanies, if you will. So just be patient with me for a second because this is a new working out here. But the concept of in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints that if you attain the celestial kingdom, the highest degree of glory after you die, we are promised that we will become like gods and be able to create our own worlds. And to me, this question actually got me in trouble with a lot of my leaders and church, and my parents were just like, "Oh, we just trust. We just have faith, or God's perfect." I mean, it was just like blanket statements thrown over my question. But I was like, "Well, so if we can become gods, then that means God has a God." And that God's God has a God, and like who's the original God? How far back does it go? How many gods are there? But then that directly like goes against the like 10 commandments, the very first commandment, thou shalt only have no gods before me, And so it's like this confusing thing, but like you're telling us we can be gods, but we can't have other gods. Like, and the idea that like if me as a human now, the idea of me in an eternal celestial kingdom, we know, or we've been taught, I should say, we were taught in church that we all of the stuff that we learn on earth we will take to heaven with us, and so it's important to learn so that we can take that to heaven with us, and that will help us form our worlds that we will be gods over. Well, I'm imperfect. And when I go to heaven, I mean, I'm still gonna be this character. That's a really good analogy. A character, this Jenny essence character, and maybe a different name or whatever, but the same basic essence. And I would imagine that that would be fallible. And I remember listening to this podcast just to tie this in a little bit more. This man, he's very heretical, and I just love it. And he talks about how he believes that Jesus was kind of God's way of being like, "Hey, sorry, I've been an asshole to you guys. You're my kids, and I've been really mean. Like I smote a lot of you just because you complained that you weren't getting food when I saved you. And it's like, oh, you're gonna complain, I smite thee, and it's like, and he just didn't know how to be a good God yet. Like he was still practicing being a God. And that like felt really comforting to me. And so he's like, here's my gift of like, I'm sorry, I fucked up. Let me make it better. Here's a way, and then also like this realization that like, oh man, maybe perfection really isn't the goal, right? Like maybe it's just learning to be and evolving through that. Um, so that was really fun to read this time around and be like, yeah, he is. God is a fucker. And so by like, by natural order, like so are we, because God created us. So that was really fun.
I love that. And it reminds me, I like to think of that same scenario of like, God playing out these different scenarios with us. And to me, it's like a game of Barbies. Like
Yeah.
like if I'm directing the game of Barbies, at least this is how I played when I was a kid. Like the story wasn't perfect ever. None of my Barbies were perfect. They were cheating on each other. One of them had a twin brother and they were like switching places and cheating on each other's girlfriends, and one of them got pregnant as a teenage. Like it was because I was experimenting what it would be like and playing these things out because like I was curious, and I would like to think that like God or creator like is the same and has these curiosities, and that makes him kinky. He is a kinky motherfucker. They whoever.
Yeah. Yeah. He is just the typical pronoun because that's how I was raised. But yeah, I think it's all encompassing. That is really, I love, again, another like winning analogy here. Um, A Course in Miracles talks a lot about how we use our God power to miscreate because we don't understand it fully. And but whatever we miscreate is actually an illusion because anything that isn't created from God is not real. And so we spend all of this time trying to fix our miscreations and coming up with cures for our miscreations when it's like trying to, I mean, the analogy that the A Course in Miracles gives is like, trying to um well, this one's Byron Katie. It's like going up to the movie screen and trying to fix it and move characters around. No, this isn't right. Well, you can't fix it on the movie screen. You got to go to the projector. The projector's the thing that's projecting the image. That's where you got to fix it. Or even like when you're directing it and being like, actually, you stand over here. I don't know. There's a couple of layers in there. I don't know that I fully understand it, but it kind of makes sense.
Yeah. And like to fix our miscreations or God's miscreations would suggest that God's not perfect. And so no matter what, you get to that. I don't know. But then some people want to call it the adversary. Like if it's not from God, it's from the adversary. I don't know. I think they might be one and the same.
Course in Miracles calls says the devil is your ego, your body, your body and your ego. It's just I don't know. I'm still trying to unravel it. It's like all super because the last time I read A Course in Miracles, I was deep in religion too. So I was like, just if the stuff didn't align, I was like, woo, pass over. But
Yep. Okay, what's our next question?
okay. Elliot suggests that our unconscious desires shape our life's recurring patterns. Can you think of a pattern in your life, relationship, career, or habits that might reflect an unconscious desire? How does the idea of finding pleasure in these patterns challenge your perspective?
Oh, can I go? Can I go? Oh, one of the ones that I am recently uncovering is I don't get support from my partner. And it's just like my last relationship. I didn't get support in this way. And oh, poor me. And so like I had to go deeper with like, okay, this is a reoccurring pattern. If I feel unsupported by a pattern or by a partner, then that is a pattern. And why do I like it so much? Why do I like feeling unsupported? And it's because I like to be in charge. I Hold on, let me rephrase. Because I want to go into the mode of like, fine, I'll fucking do it myself and watch me and I'll get all the glory and fuck you. You don't support me, I'm gonna do it anyway. And watch me be successful, motherfuckers. And I like it. I like to be independent and not supported. And it doesn't just show up in like my romantic relationships. I feel like it's shown up here and there with like friendships as well. Like none of my friends fucking care. None of them show up to any of my things. No one no one wants to be there to support me. Guess I just have to do it all alone. So that's the one I've uncovered for myself.
I love that. I'm not going to lie, the idea of finding pleasure in these patterns really pisses me off. I remember one time my yoga teacher, my yoga guru, the one that like my very first class I went to, the one that inspired, like encouraged me to go get certified. Like she's just been with me through so many things. And I was at her home having us, she was doing some private work on me, and I was complaining about these rashes, and she goes, "What if you're just supposed to love them?" And I just wanted to punch her in the face. Yep. Like, how the fuck do you love something that causes you pain 24/7? You know? So it was just kind of like this, like, no, no. But the more I do understand and learn about our physiological responses, that pain and pleasure, like where is the line when it goes from pain to pleasure or when it turns from pleasure into pain? Where is that line? Where does the water go from cold to hot? Where does up turn to down? Where does, you know what I mean? Like all of these things, they're it's like this pen, right? It's like if we value this side as good because it writes and this side is not good because it doesn't do anything, well, you can't pick up the good side without picking up the dumb side, that doesn't do anything. They both come together. And so it's just learning how to, like, literally, it's a frame of mind. It's again going back to the projector and changing what's being projected of, oh, this actually doesn't hurt. I actually really love this. And she even talks about it. I don't remember if it's in the part that we've read so far, but I know she does talk about like sexual kink and how a lot of people get off on pain and they love the pain. They pay a lot of money to receive the pain because it gives them so much pleasure. Like, and then there's the orgasmic birth movement. Like women that have learned to give birth and the contractions, they experience them as orgasms instead of pain. And I'm just like, okay, we've been, I mean, and my friend Tonyu, he wears a hat all the time that says comfort kills. Comfort kills. Um, but we live in such a, we're so privileged right now. We got it so easy. We have air conditioning to cool us when we're too hot, heat to heat us up when we're too cold. We've got clothes that can help with the in between stages that we can take on and off. We have fridges, at least a fridge full of food, and plus probably a pantry. Some people have an extra fridge or freezer in their garage, like we don't know really what it's like to suffer. Like, I've never experienced war firsthand. This country, we haven't ever had to worry about being bombed, like air raid sirens and stuff. We are so, so blessed and so cozy, and we just shy away from any amount of pain that we haven't really learned that it's really not painful, I think. I'm still kind of like playing with this, but it's more like how we think about it. Um, I mean, I think that's like everything, right? Is the thoughts that we think that create everything. So I'm really trying to learn how to shift my perspective. Grok helps a lot. I throw my shit in grok, and then I'm like, okay, how do I turn this into an existential kink? What's my kink here? And because I'm not seeing it, help me, and that it's been really beautiful. Some of the realizations that have come, or even, and he doesn't, grok, he is not a he, but again, whatever. Um, like gives me journal prompts to like sit and journal or meditate on, and affirmations that are just so beautiful. It's been really, really, really amazing. But yeah, I think I've talked long enough.
The part that you're talking about, like the childbirth, and the, I don't know the words you said. My mind just went whoop. But like the orgasmic childbirth, that's actually in lesson 2, which wasn't on the reading material, but I read past because I can't get enough of the book now. But that was a big one for me. Like, oh yeah, like that's true. People can experience that. And I know that when I've like been in pain, I'm like, yeah, oh, I fucking love that. Even if you don't, like if you can kind of work through it by saying that you do. Like you don't even have to do anything and feel the pleasure. You just have to say that you do to begin to shift your perspective on it in your mind.
Yeah, love that.
I know for me, my life changed when I stopped expecting it to be easy. And that was like, oh, why do I think my life should be easy? And not only that, but I recognize that a lot of the next generation, as our current generation, we're trying to shield our children from discomfort and uncomfortable situations. And we like step in, right, as the helicopter mom of like, oh, my kid shouldn't have to deal with that, instead of letting them experience life as it comes. And I'm like, I think we're doing them a huge disservice. And the minute I recognized that I had started doing that, I was like, ooh, that's interesting, right? That I think that my son, or he's 6, he just turned 17, and like that somehow his life, should be easier than mine. And I'm like, ooh, I wonder where that came from, right? Like each generation, as you look back, it's like the Depression, and then the next generation of baby boomers, and, like I'm like, each generation, right? Have we been trying to make it easier for the next generation, but are we doing them a huge disservice?
I think, what was that noise? That was scary. Um, I think that is a great point because like we almost I don't know, grew up, or like there's this transition. There was this trend of like positivity. Like everything it everything works out in the end. It's fine, and like just focus on the positive, focus on the good. But it's like that's not real. Like yes, and like there's a beautiful lesson and we can be positive about that, but like it's really fucking hard and that's okay. Like things are hard. This is a part of life that we have to deal with, and you know, so what? My husband gets into a motorcycle accident. Yeah, this really fucking sucks, but we're going to get through it, and it really fucking sucks. And so I don't know where I was going with that, but like it's the not shielding from the experiences, because like there's always things we can learn, and sometimes the things that we learn is just it sucks, and we these are the things we have to go through in life, and that's it's all right.
Beautiful. Okay. The preface has a bold, sassy tone, blending humor and spirituality. How does her writing style affect your engagement with the material? Does it make the concepts more accessible or distracting? To me, it makes it more accessible. Like, oh yeah, okay. Because I'm like a huge fan, like one of my favorite quotes is enlightenment literally means to lighten up. It's in the word. Enlightenment. So I love her bold and sassy tone. I'm here for it.
Right, calling God a kinky motherfucker makes me laugh and makes me want to read more. Like provocative. Mm. So I appreciated it too.
Yay. Okay, the underworld mystery. Um, oh, she reinterprets the myth of Persephone to frame the journey into the shadow. This one was really fascinating to me. And I'm like, I don't remember this from the first time I read it. So it was really fascinating to read it again, especially after reading. I've read a couple of fictional books on Persephone and Hades and how she actually like just really loves him, and it wasn't a rape even. So it's like a this was like a third new perspective to Persephone. Um but how does this mythological lens help you understand the idea of embracing the underworld of your psyche? What parallels do you see between Persephone's story and your own life? Um, this one actually kind of played into that God is not perfect type of thing because it'd be interesting to know your take on this once you read it, Shuri. But essentially, Persephone separated, well, I don't remember all of the names, but Persephone essentially separated her consciousness because she was in just bliss in heaven. She wanted to know what it was like to experience duality. And so she separated her consciousness from her subconsciousness so that her subconsciousness could take her over, essentially, like Hades, or whoever it is in the book. It's a little different than the myths I remember. So I'm like, huh. But so that she could experience what it was like to know herself on outside of herself, which is kind of like God wanting to know what it's like to be a Jenny or a Brittany or a Cherie. So I don't know, it was really interesting to me. What did you think about this story, Brittany?
Um, it it made me angry. And in this part of the book, I was still angry because I was very much thinking about like because I guess my interpretation of Persephone's story was like, but wait, she was captured and she was raped and she was, held down there, and she wasn't she tricked into eating the pomegranates, and she but like the point, I think, was now letting it sit and integrate. Like, she wanted to rule, and she really did love the things she had to go through to get to that. At least that's kind of how I interpreted it. I want to read that part again because it was a little out there for me and confusing. And I might have to like do some outside research on the story of Persephone, but it was like, and then the reason I didn't like it is because it made me reflect on my first marriage and like how abusive it was. And then it's like, it makes me reflect and say, did I like that? Did I call that in? Without blame. It's hard to do it without blaming yourself and say that you deserved it in a way. There's a there's a line that's hard to differentiate for me. And so if that makes sense, like just did I did I like that? What did I like about that? And but also that had nothing to do with me. So I kind of really struggled with this chapter. Um, but yeah, I think that I'll probably read it again to understand deeper.
But going back to the duality, right? Of like, did I call it in? I don't know that I wanted that experience, at least not consciously now that in your body, right? But does that mean that you didn't ask to receive that in your plan of life to really gain that experience and that perspective that you couldn't have gained any other way? So going back to the duality of like, that really sucked, but I couldn't have learned how to be more empathetic or go through and learn that experience without having gone through it.
Yeah, and that's true too, because that was like a very character arcing moment for me too. I've had friends that I had, before, well, even Jenny, we kind of even knew each other before, like you knew me when I was with him. And it was like, I have a friend named Cami who she says, like, before your energy was like a bunny and you just survived off being cute and like lovable and adorable. And now you're like this intense, like, creature that still has those qualities, but like you pulled something from that pain. So I can see that. it's it's both. Yeah, that duality, I like that. Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, that one it was interesting. I want to read that one again because it's not the myth I remember. Um Pluto. I thought it's Pluto. And Pluto is the planet Pluto, or I mean it's been retired as a planet, I guess, or demoted as a planet, but whatever. The archetype that goes really strong with Pluto is Persephone. And it is the underworld energy. So that there was a link there for me. I was like, okay, I can see Pluto and Persephone for sure, but that was a new, I always thought it was Hades. So yeah, that would be an interesting one to see how it shows up again, if it does. But okay, the prologue emphasizes surrender as a key to transformation. Shit. What does surrender mean to you in the context of personal growth? Are there any areas in your life where surrendering to uncomfortable truths might lead to change?
Read that last part again.
Yeah, it's a little confusing. I like paused a couple times. Are there areas in your life where surrendering to uncomfortable truths might lead to change? But I really I'm like, this is a question I ask a lot of people. What is the difference between surrender and giving up? I quit. I'm done. I can't do it anymore. Versus, all right, I surrender. Like, to me, it's like, I know it's just like a fraction of a difference of intention. Like giving up is like exasperation, frustration. It's all of I mean, it's the unconscious negative shit that we don't like, I can't do this anymore. And where surrender is, all right, I realize I am powerless here, so I'm going to turn this over to a power that is greater than me to help me see it differently, show up differently, whatever. But it's like a very thin line between give up and surrender. So I would love to know or answer whatever questions you guys want off of that.
I think it's the the difference between surrendering and giving up is, I couldn't find it just now, but it's approval of your emotions. Like, do you disapprove of the emotion that you're feeling, and you just say like, okay, fuck, I give up, and it's whatever. But if you're approving of how you're showing up, where you're showing up, how you're feeling, then it's an allowance of like, okay, I am allowed to feel that. And that to me is surrender. And um God, where I wish I could find it. I thought I underlined it. Underlined it. Yes.
That is really beautiful. Acceptance, allowing is the difference between quitting and surrendering. Yeah.
Yeah. The pleasure without approval is when it becomes a negative thing for us. The Because okay, what am I trying to say? So the kink is when we're having fear, anxiety, humiliation. I think those are the ones she uses. Like, those are all pleasure without approval. And so surrendering would be to allow us to feel that pleasure with approval, to surrender to the feelings of fear, humiliation, and anxiety.
I love that.
I was just going to say it's the energy behind it. Even watching you both talk about it, your energy shifted. Like when you were talking about like I give up, it's like ugh, like that exasperated. Like the energy behind it is like I can't keep going, but like surrender is that the energetic around humility of like, okay, I'm turning it over. Like I'm humbling myself and really letting go of the outcome, what the outcome looks like, and turning it over to surrender of like, okay, this like I'm what do you have in store for me here? Like could this look different in a positive way kind of thing.
Mhm. I love that. So beautiful. Okay. Symbolism of the shadow. She describes the shadow as the repressed, taboo parts of ourselves. What emotions or thoughts came up when reading about the shadow? How comfortable are you with exploring these hidden aspects of yourself? So I'll just go first because I've read this book before, and before I had even read this book, I've been doing shadow work for years. So I wasn't surprised. I was already fairly aware of it. This took it to new depths and a new shift and seeing those parts of me that no other tool gave me. Where it was like, hey, yeah, you love this, and loving it is what's going to heal it. Whereas all the other shadow work stuff was, um, for me anyway, it was a form of trying to fix it, to heal it, to get it to go away, instead of just accepting, allowing, embracing, and getting off on it so that I don't have it show up anymore. Um, was really That was really fun. I'm really excited to do this again.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times when people say shadow work, they do interpret it as making the shadow go away. Like, have you met your shadow really? And what does that mean? It means to sit across from your shadow and to accept that part of you, that unconscious part of you that needs to be heard and wants so badly to be heard. And our ego is interpreting it as like, these are all bad things. These are all bad emotions, when really it's just the shadow's way of expressing itself. And I'm loving the shadow work in the book so far.
I love that. Yeah, a lot of the shadow work that I've done is integrating it, making friends with it, like really just like embracing that I was designed with these flaws for a reason, right? Like I was designed this way for a reason to have these experiences with these flaws, and making friends with them has not been easy. Always, especially my messy, like my office is such a mess right now. And I'm like, oh, like, but I also see that in my 9-year old. And so then watching it replayed, it makes it even more that like, oh, I do not love that. Like, oh, like that extra piece of like, oh my gosh, why am I so triggered by her? And it's like, oh, because she's mirroring back to me something I have not accepted and loved about myself, to where it's just like, yeah, my office is a mess. Like I just spent, 2 weeks like preparing for this retreat, like, and half of it's like sound healing stuff that is still not quite in its place. So I get it, but I see it reflected back to me every day with my 9-year old, and I'm like, can I just make friends with it and integrate it as a piece of me, like that it just is a part of who I am. So it has been interesting to like list them out, because at first I was like, what shadow sides? And then it was like one day my 9-year old set me off, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's all the things about her. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like staring back at me. And so I started, and then it was like furiously writing like all the things. And I'm like, that's so bad that that's where it came from. But it was like, it was that witness, because I literally was like praying about it. And I'm like, in that meditative prayer of like, what do I need to work on? Like, what do I need to focus on? And it was like right in front of my face. And I'm like, oh, there it is. Like all of those pieces. And they stare back at me every day. But as I've made friends with them, it's helped me soften with her as well, as like, oh, like that, instead of being upset and angry, it's like, can I also accept that that's a part of her that, yes, she likely inherited from me, but can I show her the same grace that I need to also show myself? So, anyway.
So something so important, and I was paying attention to everything that you were saying the entire time to like relate it to this, and you just kept speaking to it. The shadow is the divine feminine. Like masculine is sun, feminine is moon, masculine is light. And we so live in this masculine driven world where it's like, go do, go be, go act, positivity, and like get through it. But like, we also have night and shadow and divine femininity, that like, and when we do get in touch with that, what do you feel? You do soften, you do feel more feminine when you're in touch with your shadows. Like you're leaning into your femininity. And i I think that's beautiful, just like how you were speaking about it, just like kept hitting all the marks. It's like, yes, this is divine feminine. And then you're like, it softens me. And I was like, oh yes, yes it does, because it's divine femininity.
But that's a newer concept for me, right? Especially the darker side of divine feminine, like the Black Madonna. Like that's those concepts are newer for me. So it's like even learning about them, I'm like, oh, this is so interesting, right? So thank you, Brittany. I
Yeah.
love that you just brought that in. That was beautiful.
Yeah, because like, and we live in a world that's been like, women are witches, blah, like shy away from the darkness of the woman. And it's like we should be embracing this because it does soften us, and we should have not should. It's beneficial for us to have a connection to that dark side, that shadow side, the subconscious, the intuition. That's where all of that lies. And you can't expect to be an intuitive healer without getting into your subconscious where your intuition lives and without healing and sitting with it. So, yeah.
I love it. Okay, how long do you guys want to go?
What time is it? I'm not even paying attention.
Oh, the 8:15.
Oh,
So I'm like, do we do one question from each of these, or do we just go straight to lesson one?
um, do have we hit? Where are we?
We're at an introduction to the shadow questions. That is
Okay, let's move on.
lesson one.
Okay, yeah, let's move on and just do like one from each probably. And then you just know they're there for you to do on your own if you would like to.
Yeah, this one, having is evidence of wanting. I really did love that concept of like, not sure what you want, look around. That's what you want. And if you don't really like it, then it's your unconscious ruling your life. Like, I feel like that's a really beautiful wake up call. And also a really beautiful validation too for all of the things that we have created that we do want. That like both and are it's kind of a double-edged sword there, but I really do like that one. Having is evidence of wanting. Okay. Yep. So, like, she talks about the feminine and masculine here too. She frames existential kink as a form of psychological integration and magic, blending the unconscious feminine and conscious masculine. Because, yeah, the conscious is the sun, what we can see, what we do know about ourselves. The unconscious is the feminine, the parts of us we don't know yet. How do you respond to the idea of personal transformation as a magical process? Does this resonate with your worldview? Oh, yeah, I believe in magic. Which is interesting because A Course in Miracles talks about how it's an illusion. And I'm like, wait, I just started believing in this. So I need to talk to Grok a little bit about what A Course in Miracles means by the magic thing. But I totally believe.
Yeah, because like if we're talking alchemy, like that's what we're doing with our emotions, transmuting them um from oh, they're this bad thing to it's just a thing. And that's alchemy and magic in itself to me. Totally believe in magic.
To me, alchemy is science.
Mm.
Alchemy is like science that's been, tested and proven. Just not everybody has the formulas.
Well, magic is just science that hasn't been proven.
Yeah, that's true. I can vouch for that. Yeah.
Like it doesn't have it's science that we don't understand yet.
Science we don't understand yet.
That concept came from there's a book called and there's a series. It's the Raven's Wand. And it has these people of science that are um they're trying to make something happen with like the science people are against the magic people, but really they're the same thing. at the same time, just the science people have figured out how it works. And so they don't like the magic people because they don't understand how the magic works because it doesn't make sense to them.
Ah, interesting. Interesting. And I mean, even the next one talks about alchemy, the concept of alchemy, transforming pain into pleasure. If you tried any of the suggested practices, noticing unconscious pleasure in a pattern, what was your experience? If not, what's holding you back from engaging with these exercises?
I think it's, I don't know if this is on topic with that question, but it's what popped into my head that like I think a lot of times we are also acting out our traumas through our kinks, like sexually at least. I don't know if I'm alone here and if I'm just speaking for myself, but like um in a we're acting out those traumas in a safe way and alchemizing it from pain to pleasure. Like, I don't know, for instance, people that like their mouths covered or breath play.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they're reenacting these things and transmuting the feeling of that into pleasure and like you know where I'm going with this, I think. I just, the words are not coming out. But I think it is very interesting that, like, even in the brain, like, the same place where we feel pleasure is where we feel pain. They're the same receptors. And um, that's always been interesting to me, like, to know and to realize and to accept, like, that painful experiences can bring us pleasure, and that's what the whole fucking book's about.
Yeah. Um, yeah, it's really interesting. I was like, there were exercises in the first lesson? I don't remember. But I think it was just like this
Hey,
awareness of that that you do have these patterns, that you do have judgments and specific feelings against them, and seeing if you could just maybe figure out why you like to feel that way. Like just the awareness, I think, is all she's really calling us to explore in lesson one, is just the awareness of this concept. Um, what was your experience? You tried any of the practices? I mean, I think for me, the experience was a little bit of frustration. Like, okay, so now what? And I'm impatient and I want to know what's next. I've read the book before, but I'm still like, well, what's the next step? You sure I see the shit and I can see how I'm getting off on it. And this is even now I'm even more uncomfortable. So what's next? How do I fix it? I'm still in that, like, I gotta fix it. Instead of just this accepting, allowing, surrendering, embracing, loving. Hmm.
I think the part that it was talking about, like the um what am I saying? The exercise, like um the concept is this: you are not who you think you are. Whoever you happen to think you are, I assure you, you are not that. I suggest you remind yourself of this often because it makes this work easier. When you brush your teeth in the morning, think to yourself, I am not at all who I imagine myself to be. I am something entirely different with far more vast and who is far more vast and strange. I wonder what I really am.
Yeah, I mean, that reminds me of like the first like 25 lessons in A Course in Miracles. Like, I don't know what anything is for. I don't perceive my own best interests. Um, I see no neutral things. My thoughts are images that I have made. A meaningless world engenders fear. Right? Like that's the first 25 lessons in A Course in Miracle is I'm not who I think I am. Interesting. This is fun to find some of these correlations. Hmm.
Well, I've just experimented a lot with like, can excitement and fear feel the same in your body? Like, is that something that you can look at and be like when you're on a roller coaster and you're like looking down, it's like that fear that catches your breath, but it's also allowing yourself to realize that because it's a roller coaster, can I let it be fun? Like, can it be excitement instead? So I've been toying with that and having some of my clients experiment with that. Like when they're feeling that fear, it's like, can you view it as excitement instead? So I love that it's pain and pleasure of like, can you view it as pleasure instead of pain. So I'm excited to dive into this book now. After I'm like I kind of like that I didn't read it now because you guys have like brought all this stuff up and I'm like, ooh, this is so interesting, right? So thank you so much.
Yay.
And roller coasters, it's so funny because like I love roller coasters. I used to hate them, but I love them because you can't be sad on a roller coaster. I always say that like you can't be a sad bitch on a roller coaster. You're like, oh, because there's like your heart's beating really fast and you're like scared but like excited at the same time. But like how often do we say like, oh, life's been a roller coaster lately? Oh, it's like, and is that the energy behind a roller coaster? I don't think so. Roller coasters are like, wow. So that kind of gave me something to think about. Like roller coasters, they're fun. You just have to alchemize the fear and the ups and the downs as like it's a ride. It's a ride.
Oh, yeah. And then, of course, because the word kink is in this, I, like, taking that ride, those ups and downs, what makes it good?
Yeah.
Okay, we are kinky motherfuckers. Okay. So she encourages embracing taboo or forbidden feelings. What's one desire or feeling you've been taught to suppress? How might accepting it, as she suggests, shift your sense of personal power? Ooh, a thought or
I'll
feeling
share.
to
I
suppress.
think for me, like, and I even admitted this in my women's group because growing up in a Christian environment where purity culture was so praised,
Mhm.
I felt really different that I enjoyed it. Like I enjoy being with my husband, and so that felt very weird to admit out loud. And so that's where you guys are like kinky, and I'm like, I was looking forward to that piece of the book, but it's not comfortable like for me to admit. And even we've been talking about sexuality in general in my Christian mom group, right? Like that I help facilitate. And it's hard for me to feel like admitting that is going against the norm. But I also want to normalize it. So there's that duality for me of like, I want women to know that that is normal and can be normal, and it's something that can empower you in that creative energy, right? So it's been an interesting piece for me in the last couple months as I've learned more in this Magdalene Mysteries book. This is probably the book I probably spent more time on in the last couple weeks, but it's been interesting as it talks about just the different aspects around sexuality and a different view of Mary Magdalene and Yeshua and just different things like that. So it's been really interesting as I've learned more about it. I'm like, oh, they're like, this is not the sexuality that I learned about, right? The creative, the ISIS and, you know, the different aspects. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's all intertwined, right? Like, it's just like I'm seeing how it's like all intertwined. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's blowing my mind. So, but it's been beautiful to admit in a way of like, I really enjoy sex. Like, I probably enjoy it more than my husband. Like, I sometimes have to beg, like, hey, like, show up without my shirt, you know, like, just for that to get that pleasure out that didn't feel normal for me. I was like, there must be something wrong with me because growing up in that purity culture of being like, I really enjoy that piece and it's fun, right? It's that fun aspect that I didn't know that I should, like, just that it should. I don't know. I felt like, oh, it should be reverent and it should be this sacred. And now I'm just like, harder, faster. Like, do you know what I mean? And it's like, oh, I actually, this, you know, it's become more of a fun experimentation instead of feeling like it has to look a certain way or that I have to show up a certain way. It's like, no, it's giving me permission, right? To be kinky and it's okay. Like, so yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that because that's one of my things too is like we need to normalize this. Um, so I experienced a really interesting taboo forbidden thought today with the help of Grok and their journal prompts based on existential kink and my specific stuff my pain I was struggling with. Um, and in my journaling, this really interesting thought came to me. As a heretic and believing that Jesus um, I don't believe that he died for our sins. I believe that he showed us that we need to die for our own sins and that we need to save our own selves and that we can and that we can resurrect and be reborn at one with our God self. That is my belief. I know it's heretical. I know it's blasphemous from what I was taught to believe. Um, but in my journaling today, this feeling of if I actually believed that and healed my rashes and healed my knee and healed my these physical things that I've been struggling with and just like miraculously you received all of this abundance and all of the problems that I've been struggling with for the last 20 fucking years that I just love being a martyr about. If I actually did the things that I believed I was like capable of doing, that would somehow threaten God and Jesus, that I would be blasphemous, that I would be committing the greatest sin there is by like, I don't know, trying to dethrone God and Jesus from their place. I, it's interesting, but to like believe that I have this same power to work miracles and healing that Jesus did, even though he says, come on, come follow me, you can do this. But for some reason, claiming it, like saying that I can and that I do, and you know, like is really terrifying because I'm going to be burned at a stake for this. you know, because that's not what we were taught. No, Jesus is the one that saves us. We need him to save us. And so for me, like one of the reasons I feel like I haven't allowed my rashes or knee to heal is because I am really truly afraid that like how dare you think you can be like Jesus? You know?
Mhm.
I mean, it's one thing to give lip service to it and like talk about it and of course he says it and it's uplifting and positive, but to like actually do it, that's scary. And I've done it. I know I'm other people and I've healed other things on myself, I know it's possible. Who do I think I am? God? Yes, I do. Why can't I just say that? Why is that a taboo thing? Why is that forbidden? Sacrilegious. Yeah. Okay. I'm done. I'm done. That one's new. That was a new awareness for me. Also, the other one that was really big. No, no, I don't need to share that one right now. Okay.
Will you read the question again for me? Because I think I got lost.
Yeah. Um, taboo desires. Elliot encourages embracing taboo or forbidden feelings. What's one desire or feeling you've been taught to suppress? And how might accepting it shift your sense of personal power?
I think that like really feeling any emotion other than positivity. Like
Yeah.
I feel I've been taught to like, especially with like all my medical stuff, like, well, at least you can walk. At least this, at least that, at least the one that really pisses me off is like, you're so beautiful, as if that has anything to do with like, oh, I should be grateful that I'm pretty because like if I was ugly or like I don't know. But it's like any fuck, where was I going? I got lost again. um like having any negative feelings about any of my situation just was like it was like, well, don't be so sad about it. And my fourth grade teacher even called used to call me Pollyanna because I had this like sense of optimism, and I was taught to repress the like, I'm fucking sad and angry and mad that I have this stupid fucking body, because then people want to go, your body's not stupid. Like, and but it is sometimes. And repressing that just makes it worse for me. And so shifting that and like just being okay with like, it's okay that I feel angry about the situation sometimes. Just knowing that it's okay has helped me shift my perspective. So, yeah, I don't
Yeah, and
that's
I think that some of that comes from the learning to judge emotion, right? Judging them as positive or negative. So, like it's comfortable and uncomfortable, right? Like maybe just even rephrasing from positive and negative to like these ones are a little more comfortable than these ones over here. Like I think that that's even just shifting that mindset for me has helped me because I was judging anger, right? And rage as like, oh no, I'm not an angry person, as if to like separate myself from that somehow was serving me. And I was like, oh my gosh, everyone gets angry. Like, I'm like, no, I'm just really good at suppressing that one. I'm really good at deflecting that one. Oh, I'm not angry, right? Because I was judging it. I was making a judgment, right? But I think when you do grow up in an environment where it's like, find the silver linings, like somehow that's going to create blessings. You're going to be blessed because you're finding the positive silver lining instead of just recognizing that all of the emotions are God given and that they all serve its own purpose. That anger, once I worked through a lot of my anger, like, and alchemized it into love, I was like, oh, I see. I was making so much judgment. I was judging it so harshly as a negative thing. Like, oh, I can't be angry. But yeah,
right.
that's been my experience too. Because I grew up with a mom who was constantly like looking for the positive. It was either everything was fearful or you got to look for the positive. There was not a lot of middle ground. So I
Oh, yeah.
totally feel that, Brittany.
Yeah. My grandma constantly tells me, you're my inspiration. I don't want to fucking be your inspiration. Shut up. And it's okay that I don't want to be your inspiration, but it puts this pressure, this like taboo, like you have to be this positive turbine of happiness all the time. So, yeah.
Of the analogy that she used in the book that is one of my favorites. And ever since I read the book, I use it often. She's like, it's like standing in a pile of shit and looking at the sun and being like, it's okay. It's not there. Let me spray some perfume or light an incense or, put on some essential oils and just keep looking at the sun. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. You're still standing in shit. And like you could pour as much glitter over that shit as you want, but it's still shit. And until you like um what's the word? Realize, bring your awareness, you're standing in shit, you can't move out. And no amount of looking at the light and the sun and thinking positive thoughts and saying affirmations is going to change the fact that you're standing in a pile of shit. And you got to address the pile of shit and like assess, okay, now what? And yeah, I mean that's like just spiritual bypassing. Um,
Mm.
but I think we all have that in common. Our moms, toxic positivity, Pollyanna. And I don't feel anger, but my mom had a tumor the size of a football in her womb, from like suppressed anger and rage. I'm not angry. Had to have her
Hey,
go.
my mom too. That's interesting. She didn't die of cancer. She died of liver, which is also anger. It's your anger center. And my mom died of liver failure with, she also had uterine cancer, which eventually spread. It's a combo, but in
And
her womb.
my grandma, the one that's constantly inspirate, you're my inspiration, positive, she had breast cancer. So
Yeah.
this is interesting.
Yeah. All those feminine parts that we deny ourselves, the subconscious, the shadow parts we deny, and so it turns into a mass of poison. Interesting. All right, well, let's not get cancer. Let's do this existential kink shit. I love it. I love you guys. Thank you for coming and being part of this.
Yeah. I was trying to find the shit part in this book because I wanted to read it again, but where is it? It's in the beginning. Oh, here it is. Can I read it really quick?
Where is it?
Um, in the very beginning, it is XV. I don't know. Oh, it's on the second page. Hey, hey, never mind. It's going to be too loud in here for me to read it.
Where is it?
The second page of the preface, or third, I guess. I realized when you only focus on light and positive thinking, then it's like you're staring up at the sun without looking down to notice you were standing in a pile of feces.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was good.
Or you just fine.
Oh, good. Okay. Um, doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. Okay, something smells bad, but as long as you stare at the light, then all the bad will go away. And instead of cleaning up the poo, you spray perfume or affirmations all over it. Meanwhile, shadow work is looking down at the shit so you can clean it up or even compost it into a lush garden. Yes. Looking at the shit and using it, alchemizing it for fertilizer.
Yay.
Hmm.
Love it. My ex-husband used to always say, turning chicken shit into chicken soup. Okay. So, hey. Oh, what should we read for the next one? Or I guess Brittany and I will figure it out and let everybody know when we know what we're doing for the next part.
Yeah, because I've already read lesson 2. I'm like, we're only doing this once a month. So how many?
I know.
Anyway,
Yeah.
yes, if we read more, we read more. Um, But I think that's why it's good to have it in the classroom on SIS, because then you can be journaling it yourself as well, rather than going through every single question. So,
Okay. Yeah. And then it doesn't, there's the stories, and then there's like all the exercises and meditations and stuff.
Is the questions you got, is it per just chapter? Like it's not per, like, here, it's recommended that you read this for a book club or recommendation. It's
yeah,
just per chapter.
I just put in like into Grok. I just said, "Hey, we're reading to page 38. So up to this page, give me questions for book club." And then
Awesome.
it came up with them. So,
That's awesome.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe go back and say, if we want to read this book in, I don't know how many months, 3, 4 months, what is the breakdown of where we start and end
Yeah.
each month? I don't know.
That's a good suggestion. I like that. I will do that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited.
Yay.
And like a month feels too long.
I
So
know.
I know. But like when I wasn't like in a real life book club, where we used to like get together in people's houses and read them, it was once a month. But it was the whole book in a month too. So, and it was not books like these, it was storybooks. But this one, I'm like, I did Sophia Code once a week, and we'd read a chapter every week. And that was a little too much because there was the chapter and then the initiation, and that initiation was like, but yeah, but it kept me going forward and doing it every week. So I don't know. We've got some things to contemplate.
Yes.
We'll figure it out. Okay, we'll let you go.
Hey, thanks, Cherie. Thanks, Jenny. I love you guys. Yay.
Our first book club.
So good.
Yeah, so good. So good. Okay.
I'm glad that she did join. I was at first, I was like, "Ugh, I don't want to do it."
How it usually goes.
Yep.
Oh. Yeah.
Okay.
Recording. Whoops. Oh well.
We didn't record any of that.
Oh, I know I'm still recording.
Oh, that's okay. I can cut that.
Okay. Uh I'm downloading it. Or I've
Oh,
saved it.
yeah.
So
Did you record it to your computer or to the cloud? Okay. Okay.
so I'll just upload it to YouTube and then we'll go from there.
Yep.
Love you. Bye.
Okay. Love you.